The question he's dealing here now is, why is it necessary by Tzias Mitzrayim, even for the level of Medalig Alaharim? Medalig Alaharim is the Makif HaKarev, but it's still a transcendent level beyond the Ishtalshelus. And that's what's referred to in the Haggadah. The Pasuk says, V'avarti beretz Mitzrayim, I will pass. And we say in Haggadah, and evil in Malach and so on. Why was this required? In contrast to the story where the Malachim protest the giving of the Torah, for example, so Hashem extends his small finger, which is Malchus, and then his battle. So if that takes care of Malachim, how much more so from Mitzrayim down here in Ilam Hazar Gashmi? So why do we need to have the union of Avarti? So it begins to answer. The essence of the answer is, just in a second. Good morning, Sid. Good Chodesh. The essence of the answer is, and at the end you'll contrast it to the Malachim, and as we'll see, there are 2 handwritten notes that the Rebbe added to the Maamar. Obviously, they'd asked this question. And one of them is actually a very fascinating note, as we'll see presently, at the end, to explain why the Malachim were different. But the answer is that no level of Ishtalshelus will do the trick. Simple as that. The highest level of Ishtalshelus is a consequence, or more than a consequence, it really is the Kav. Again, the Kav is that first projection of a likus from the Ein Sof. This is how the Etzlo describes the Kav as a line whose top is attached. This is very physical imagery, which it doesn't mean, but there's no other language at our disposal as human beings. So the top of the Kav, we speak of higher and lower, closer, further distance. By divine design, Hashem wants us to feel that way. That's the point of Dira B'Tachtonim. But at any rate, so the Etzlo describes the Kav as the top of it touching, the top of it is touching the Ein Sof. The top is Davuk, but the bottom is not. Now that description is not merely, as it were, the very top of the Kav and the bottom, Malchus of Asiyah, Malchus the Malchus of Asiyah. It means in essence that's what the Kav is. Attached at the top and not at the bottom, which simply is saying is that inherent and integral to the Kav is gradation, are levels. The highest level is not purely the highest level, because the highest level already acknowledges there's a lower level and I'm higher than it. So if that's how you define your height, then it's a relative height. You're relative to a lower level. As we explained yesterday, in different words, it means that the koyach hagvul that emerges as a result of the tzimtzum, the Kav penetrates, more detail, what happens is that the Kav penetrates the tzimtzum. It's rooted in the Ein Sof, that's true, but it penetrates the tzimtzum into the makam chol, into the empty space, quote unquote, created by the silik hagodol, the tzimtzum itself, the great removal. So we're just saying that as a result of this tzimtzum, therefore, what happens is that the koyach hagvul, which is really what creates the tzimtzum. So the koyach hagvul creates this sense of distance. The koyach hagvul, as it is mitzad atzmos lifnei tzimtzum, is an equal expression of him as bligvul, no more virtuous, no less virtuous. Hashem can express himself in any way or in no way at all, which is far more natural. He chooses to express that expression. That's already the fundamental change, is this desire to express. But in that expression, there's the 2 polar opposites that are equal, Gvul and Bligvul. But the Kav does not carry that dimension, the atzmisdika dimension of the Gvul. By divine design, the kav carries and expresses it as it projects down the kav, lower and further and further and further. So therefore, the highest level is already part of the whole system. It's a higher level compared to a lower level. The highest level is saying there are conditions that are far from God. It's not true mitzad atzmus. It is true mitzad the kav. All to say, therefore, at its high, any revelation from Ishtalshalis in the highest level, the very original primal expression, cannot, as you explained at the end, completely nullify Mitzrayim at its height. Mitzrayim was at its height of its power, and that it requires a true makiv dik, more atzmi dik, but not mamish, but a makiv dik, a true infinite revelation, makiv hakariv. That's the gist of the answer. As we said yesterday, I gave examples in life that the moment that you give a reason for anything you do, it's open to debate. And if you really want to win the argument, don't give a reason. Especially with your kids, right? Okay. Unless you have a different intent, unless you want them to understand, then you have to explain. But this isn't the question of understanding. That's not the issue at hand. But obedience, which is the primary role of a parent. The teacher has to make you understand, but a parent is one has to respect parents. So their discussions are very controlled. Of course, the kids get older, it's a whole different thing. I'm talking about in the very formative years. Loving discipline. Don't explain why fire is, unless the explanation can help the outcome, because the kid doesn't really know. But if it's my reason against your reason, that's a lost battle. Okay, showing. So let's continue. It's page Reish Hey. We're up to Viseirim Bizeh, moreover. So it's the bottom of page Reish Hey, if you have that. If you're on the internet, if you're the Zoom, you don't have it. So you have what I sent you. So where would it be? It's 3/4 down, is Vav. He's saying the point we just said now. He said, moreover, even the level of the oil, and it's rooted, it starts in the oil lifnei tzimtzum. That's where it's attached. And then it penetrates the tzimtzum. And because already the kavanah of this oil is that or the kavanah of the kav there, the expression, because the kavanah of the revelation that Hashem is projecting, the whole point of it, the kavanah is the intent, is hakbala. So therefore, yesh lekvar hamedida. Already the limitation is already present. Medida means higher, lower. And what's that medida? Only the beginning of the kav is attached to the oil itself. Only you are, but not the lower projections. If it's only you and not the lower, already distinction is made. Medida is set in place. This is an oil, no matter how lofty it's mugbal. No matter how sublime the argument, it's still an argument. And one argument begets another argument. There's a counter argument. And therefore, even this highest level of the kav already allows for oilamis. So this level can't come along and say, you're nothing. I'm not nothing. I'm valuable compared to you. You can't tell me I'm nothing. I'm in your world. So this level can't destroy Mitzrayim, completely nullify it. This level acknowledges Mitzrayim is something. Very small, very far, very low, but it's something. So even inherently acknowledges Mitzrayim is something. It can't be mevatlet. Subdue it, but not mevatlet. Win the fight till the next round. But it can't be mevatlet. But lochein, therefore we cleared. Yeah. The lochein b'makis p'chodes. So then when it comes to therefore the final plague, Makas B'chayres, is striking right of the firstborn, right? The point of that was a complete Techiyah means dismissal and bittul of the klippus, like gambri totally. Now look at Gimel. The Gimel means this is already the third ha'orah that Rebbe wrote because they had questions. So this is a quasi mugadik maimer, which is why it appears, as well as the first maimer of Shavuos, which is a hemshech, in the Hisofis of the Maimarim Mulukotim. They're a collection of all the formerly edited Maimarim, but they also added at the end of each volume Maimarim which were not fully edited, but were submitted. All Maimarim were submitted, and the Rebbe answered questions. So here is an answer here, because we still have to why can't Bezdin Shomayla? Why can't say this? Why can't the argument of morality, the argument from what's right and good, be enough to completely mevatel Mitzrayim? Still not so clear. This is good. This is bad. No, it's ishtalshalos. It's good. It's chesed. It's dark. It's righteousness. So why can't ishtalshalos? So he adds in the order, because here the problem is, when you have to be mevatel Mitzrayim at its height, that's the diak at its height. So if Mitzrayim was just there, no. But when it's at its height of its klippa, its chutzpah, its arrogance, its essential arrogance, then you have to have no ishtalshalos doesn't work. That's when you have to have the gilui of the makif. Now look at Rebbe. Rebbe wrote Ksav Kodsha here. That's how we have to, we need to say, it appears. We have to add this, that the problem here is not just klippa, but klippa in its full force, raging full force. Even though the Maimah didn't say it. Even though I didn't say it in the Maimah, that's how we have to say it. I'm going to explain I want you to get the nuance here of the language. We play goydla chiddush because of the big chiddush that we're pointing out, that histalshalos is not enough, and you have to have the mamash agili of ha'id histalshalos. We have to say that what are we talking about? Why is this? Even though we didn't say it when we said the maimer, but it means Mitzrayim at its toikev. What's fascinating about this order is the Rebbe is talking about the maimer like another Rebbe said it. He says, it appears we have to say this because even though it wasn't said in the Maimer, because the whole idea is such a novel idea that the Vatal Klippus Mitzrayim, you need, the Kav, Chochem Datzilus, and Kes is not enough. And that's because the Rebbe says in Maimer, it's a famous story. It's a story with the Pilo Parasha. The Pilo Parasha once argued that Tzemach Tzedek is Rebbe, but Pshat, in the Maimer that the Tzemach Tzedek said, he learned Pshat one way in Tzemach Tzedek, so they asked him, how are you arguing with the Rebbe about Pshat in the Maimer? The Rebbe said the Maimer. She said, no. She says, when the Rebbe says the Maimer, this is Torah Messina. Now we're discussing it as Yidden discussing a Maimer. So he can have his opinion, I have my opinion. So the Rebbe is himself kind of doing this, The Maimer was the Maimer. He didn't say it, but we have to say this is what it meant. It's quite an extraordinary ha'orah. I don't know if there's any other ha'orah like this ever in history. Not an expert, don't know them all, that's for sure. But I would imagine this is, I'll tell you when. Another example was, which I do know, wasn't the Maimer, was the Fabrengen. Purim Tov Shin Chai, I told you the story. So the Rebbe came to the Fabrengen already having consumed an entire bottle of Benedictine with the Rebbitzin at his Suda. And then he drank it from everybody, another bottle of Benedictine. It's one of the most extraordinary Fabrengens in history ever. Anyway, so it was recorded physically, but in those days the tape recorder no one saw it. It was really. But anyway, so after the next day, they were called on Avemel Shem Tov and the Biel Khan to Chazad the Fabrengen because he didn't remember. He remembered till the Maimer. didn't remember the Maimon, anything which followed. And that Maimon, we learned it. That Maimon happens to be one of the longest, deepest Maimorim in Tainug and Dargis. It's unbelievable. And just listen to that Fabrengen, which I've heard it many, many, many times. It's mind-blowing. You can see it as you're saying, L'chaim, it progresses. And the things you said to private people, it's historical Maimon. Historical Maimon. Fabrengen and Maimon. Anyway, so then they were chazering the end of the post-Maimon. It was a whole nigla sicha about whether the Megillah should be open at the end when the brachas are said or rolled. And there's a whole beer in Oyer and Oira. Like who did I say Oira? Why Oira, not Oyer? Anyway, I forgot which detail it was, but Avremel related later by Shem Tov. The Rebbe said, "That's what I said." I said, "Yeah." No, Mustama, there's a source for it. The response wasn't no, Stukmashke, because they were questioned it because it doesn't fit whatever. There's some question. No, Mustama is the Mocker. That was a sicher, certainly the Maimon. That was the Fabrengen, Anyway, it's quite extraordinary. So going further, continuing down the text. So therefore, since we have to completely nullify Mitzrayim and its in the order at their height, their brazen height, we have to have a revelation that is higher than even the source of the kav. Now, footnote Dal Rebbe also wrote. Again, in contrast to, so Malachim just need a little gilui. That's the end of them. But Mitzrayim needs this tremendous revelation. So further insight. The footnote Dalet. So this that the Malachim, for them was enough, a revelation of Etzbak, a small finger. This is not a makiv diga, an integrated gilui. Here, so first of all, he said like this, elsewhere, it's Ein Ches, Mavur, it's explained, so the small finger means, of course, Malchus, the final and smallest sphere. However, elsewhere it's explained, it means we mean the source of Malchus. So Malchus is the lowest, it's Boyaktana, but Malchus is rooted in the deepest essential level. So even he's really adding here now something else, that the Malachim also really got from Makif Soiviv. You follow? And this is, I'm not sure exactly what he wants with this, but this is also connected to the fact that all the levels of Keser are all connected. So even the levels of, well, this is the idea, even the level of Keser in the Shtalshalos is really a transcendent level. It's rooted in the transcendent and primal and original Keser. So Malchus, which is of course rooted in Keser, just simply crown, the kingship, the kingdom, royalty, governance, is rooted in this transcendent level. Oh, so this is what it says elsewhere. Again, but here in this Maimon, the intent is why do we have to have Soiva by Yitzias Mitzrayim? By Mitzrayim, because to have a level of the kav, which is again has this element of finitude, it's not shaykh at all in Eretz Mitzrayim, Balei Gilgulim, which is full of idols, Giloi Klal, therefore no revelation at all will penetrate. So it's not enough. So our Maimon is saying, if I'm reading, understanding this harder properly, he's saying that the Malachim were nullified through Malchus, but it's rooted in a Makiv Dika level. Here we have to have the absolute uncompromised Gili of the Makiv, because since we're dealing with Eretz Mitzrayim, which is full of idolatry and so on, no level of Giloi can penetrate You need the etzem, or the relative etzem, therefore you need the makif, direct makif of the makif HaKorev. That seems to be the pshat. I'll leave it to others. Our candidates are here. Because at the end of the day, etzba ktana, it's still part of the kav hamida. And even though etzba ktana is rooted in keser, he says in the brackets, still part of ishtalshalus, still part of the whole process. It's relative makif. That what will from Mitzrayim? Another explanation, oy al derech hapirush beveloi malach. There's a pirush he brings from the Kote Torah, vavarti I and not a malach, ki malach hayanivla v'nishtaka. Had a malach been sent to Mitzrayim, it would have been swallowed up, just absorbed by Mitzrayim. So what's the additional explanation he's given here? So why does it have to be vavarti? I think it's all tied into the same thing because it's so powerfully klipper and so on. It would absorb the malach. The malach would not be able to shatter them. So it has to be vavarti, the makif HaKorev. Let's continue. Gamav shaloimer. And could also say, it's kind of hinted to in the Maimon because Egypt was at its full strength. Its basket hadn't been full of, what he means here is beruchnius, hadn't been full of demerits, of sins, which would have then made it worthy of punishment. And that a malach could take care of. It's an opposite kind of explanation. It wasn't so evil. The lane is ma'ala, and it still was, not judged fully guilty. This explains why Sancherev. The story there is that Sancherev amassed an army to destroy Yerushalayim in the time of Chizkiah. And Eibusha told Chizkiah not to worry. They would besiege Yerushalayim. It already conquered the surrounding areas, and I will defeat him. And a malach came, without you firing a shot. And the malach came and struck them, and they fled in terror, and so on. So how come there, Sancherev, a malach, and here Mitzrayim needs vavarti? So this is what he answers over here, because Sancherev's basket of sin, as it were, had been full. He'd run his course, and therefore he was deserving of retribution, so that a malach can do. But Mitzrayim had not run its full course. It was still at its toikef, which means it was still granted a koyach melamayla to continue. So to nullify Mitzrayim, that needs not a malach, but va'avarti. I hope that's somewhat clear. L'chora. I mean, I'm not fully satisfied to understand the Odyssey and what one is adding to other exactly, but in the detail, but overall we get the idea. Okay, continue. So that's the upshot. The upshot of Yitzias Mitzrayim, the upshot of Makas B'chodesh is that is not a giloy of an openimi, which means a measured revelation that cannot destroy Mitzrayim. Was required there was a level that's utterly beyond the shtalshalus, a makif. However, this is makif HaKorev, and it's not the same as Matan Torah, which is makif HaRochek. This is skipping, as it were, metaphorically, not the same as Mekapitz alagwa is jumping. As he says, what kind of gil is happening here? It's an agenda gila. The gila is in order to dismiss, in order to, another word, litchos, to push away, to the clippers, So this is like the lower level of menucha. Right? It was all preceded, this whole explanation, by the two levels of menucha and Shabbos. A relative menucha that comes after toil, and an essential menucha that is bilti murgish, state of being, not resting because I labored, resting because I'm in touch with, the tainig is in touch with, and the experience of the essential delight, literally on a simple level of being alive. Not even baruchnius, not even baruchnius. These two levels of tainig we're speaking about earlier are, there's a tainig of a job well done, but then your tainig is something outside of you that you produced, which is very deep. You produced it, and you weren't forced to, and you only got involved in the project because there's a tainig that motivates it all. But what is that tainig? It's a tainig in accomplishment, and that's very deep and very necessary to the human condition. But the deeper tainig is the pleasure of being alive, of existing, because I accomplish anything, of being. That's pashat on a human level. Baruchnius, it means the pleasure of being a yid, the being in touch with the etzem on the shoma that's part of Hashem. And then there's the pleasure of the avodah, the accomplishment of the berurim and the work that we do and the mitzvahs that we do. That's a low level of tainug. Necessary. But the essential one is bilti murgish. A person doesn't go around consciously all the time feeling, I'm happy to be alive. It's only when his life is threatened. And even then, it's only after he overcame the adversary. So it's bilti murgish. But it's approachable. It's approachable to whatever degree. And it's the deepest way to live. With a deep tainug of being a yid. I am alive. So Yitzias Mitzrayim is the lower level. Yitzias Mitzrayim is the lower level of Shabbos. That's Malid Shabbat. Because Yitzias Mitzrayim is a victory, is a tainug after defeating Mitzrayim. So this parallels the menucha which comes after Avodah v'Yigiyah, the b'shorshi b'chinas makif v'yosher, and that is, as we explained, what's the source of that? Not makif v'choset, it's atzmidik makif, as we learned earlier, but makif v'yosher, a projection, a revelation, meaning away from essence still, rather than bringing everything into the essential self. Hashenken, I give the Matan Torah, whereas the Gila Matan Torah, that's in b'chinas makif v'choset. This is a transcendent level which we explain this, what chayza means. It brings everything into its orbit. Again, the home. Everything in the home is part of the home. This is the etzem, the essential self, which is higher than projection than gilu. Now a question, then an answer. Torah also has an agenda. It's not being. There's a whole goal. There's a whole avodah to do. You have to distinguish between impure and pure. It's interesting mitzvah. This mitzvah is you have to know the difference. It's a mitzvah, not if you're not going to be, even you're not going to be in the business of supplying food. You just trust the store owner and you buy kosher. There's a mitzvah to know what the signs of a kosher animal, not a kosher animal, and certainly to act upon it. At any rate, so Torah has an agenda, quoting lahavdil ben atome ben atoher, to make a distinction between the impure and the pure. So l'chayr, it's not etzem. It's also fixing something. It's also engaging. It's gilui. Answer, ein akavona b'chinas, beautiful answer, 2 levels now. Ein akavona b'chinas tchiyas hara. Here it's not the agenda of division, dismissing ra. On the contrary, this is more atzmistic thing. Ultimately, it's ki'im bitter and itzutzis v'alosim l'kedusha. We want to bring them all into kedusha. So that's the Oyer Chayzer. Bring everything into Kedusha. That's one answer. So that's not like Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is, hey, you're out of this. We're holy. You're not. Torah in the end wants to reveal holiness in everything. V'oid has another answer, because I guess the v'oid is, wait, there are certainly tzutzik Kedusha you can't elevate. That's only klipas noiga. What about that? The answer to that is that through tshuva and the high tshuva, you can elevate even that to some degree, but still requiring the final answer. And quickly, Vaoid, the Leizeo Akavon, the Pnim is the Torah. Torah ultimately is not about fixing. Listen, this is the Rebbe's Chiddush. It's about the Yid. It's about light to the Jew. It's about the relationship with Hashem in the deepest way. How do you have this deep relationship? Do Torah mitzvahs, elevate the world, do all those battles. But what's at the end? The end, I've got you. And through the Yid's deeper connection to Hashem, which that's the whole point, say the Shtalshalis is transformed, but that's secondary. That's a spin-off, if you like. Or in different words, the Chiddush of the Rebbe did it is, this is as follows. The Alter Rebbe in Tanya says, quoting from the Etzlo in Perek Chafei, the neshama doesn't have to be fixed. Why did it come down? To fix the guf, and the allotted part of the world that we were given to elevate. Black and white. We're here. What's the kavan is this dir b'tachtonim. That's where it's first articulated in the Etzlo in this powerful way. But the Rebbe reveals that that's not the ultimate agenda. It's true that Hashem doesn't need to be fixed. That's true. It doesn't need fixed. It isn't about fixing. It's about the relationship. I want to be connected to you in the deepest way, says Hashem. And how does this happen? You're a piece of me. I take that piece, I put it down to the guf, and give thousands of years of avodah and mesiras nefesh and tshuva and the ups and downs, and until you transform the world, and that will reveal our essential connection. And the world, it will reflect it. Every part of creation will reflect our essential bond. And that's the home. A home is every detail. The home reflects the people that are there, the ones that live there, the soulmates, the family. And on the contrary, Dafke, I'm explain that just quickly in a second, why Chassidus came along and the whole emphasis on Hidur Mitzvah, which was a big protest. People like, my grandfather didn't do it this way, but so now you have to do the film like this, and everything is it's like a new Yiddishkeit. It makes people nervous. And some, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in jest he said this, Rabbi Twersky. No, this is not in jest. Yes, in jest. A famous song, and it's in Yiddish. He sang it in Sheva Brachas, in Rabbi Posner Sheva Brachas. I'm in Golus in Chabad. I'm in Golus. You don't say V'shomru, everything, yeah, but no, everything, we're going together in the last second, you veer off, and you don't do what's so important to us. But what's the answer? All these Yidurim all of a sudden, because what makes a home but the home at the end is not the functional stuff. What's really reflective of the people that live there is just the nuance, the decoration, and it's what type of faucet. You don't have to have a faucet in a home, but what kind of faucet? Why did she choose this and not that? That talks to her. Chassidus says mavur that the external details, which are not functional. So where do they come from? Why are they there? They express the etzem. They just talk to me. Everything else is mitzad seichel and midas. You're going to give a whole cheshbon, but it could be anything. It doesn't be dafka this faucet, this color. Place the vase here. This painting. You want the chair here, not there. Function, nothing changes. So why dafka these pratim? They really paradoxically expressive of the etzem. That talks to me. So therefore, before Bias HaMashiach, when the etzem and the shoma is revealed, which is the whole kavanah of the whole avodah to the mitzvah. Therefore, now Chassidus came and this nuance. You're yoytze without it. It doesn't change the mitzvah. Everything is good. But that it dafken the prat is expressive of the etzem. So the Rebbe's final answer here is that Torah mitzvah is an atzmistic thing. It isn't about an agenda, something else. It's about us. It's about the neshama, one with Hashem. And that should be expressed and revealed in all of existence, in a revealed way. Dafka the neshama b'guf. Okay.